Well, welcome to Ravensdale Bible Academy. Today's course is Think Again Christian Fact Check, and today's lesson is on the slide. Why do we celebrate baby showers if they're only unviable tissue mass? And so the argument is that we can perform abortions legally because they're not really children. They're not really babies. They're just unviable gob of cells and tissue mass it's not really a child. And so that gives us the ability to make a decision to end the pregnancy. We're not ending a life. We're ending unviable tissue mass. Now, what we're asking is, well, why do we celebrate baby showers then? Well, why are all these misguided, misled people happy celebrating a baby when it's not a baby? It's just a gob of cells. Well, that's the question. And the question I have for you is, well, have you ever heard of an unviable tissue mass party? I don't think so. I don't think you've ever heard about that, but I know that you've heard about baby showers. You've probably seen them, witnessed them, seen them on TV, worst case scenario. And they're always filled with just this unbelievable joy and laughter and celebration. Gifts are brought, baby clothes, strollers, diapers, all for what? A science project? No. Well, everybody in this picture recognizes the truth. The truth is that there's a great celebration of a human baby that's developing, that's growing in the mother's womb, and we're just waiting for the time when the development finishes, from the process of being in the womb to the process of being out of the womb. By the way, do babies stay babies? No, babies don't stay babies. Babies are humans. They're life forms that grow and grow, and they grow from this big to this big to this big to where you can't cradle and hold them anymore, to where, at the beginning, they require you to feed them, to the point where they grow up to toddlers, to teenagers, and have babies of their own. And so you should immediately be able to recognize and understand that the human life is essentially different stages of development. And so what stage are we in a pregnancy? What stage are we in just after? What stage are we in months before? But whatever the case, you're in a stage of life. In a stage of life. Well, there really is no question. There's no debate. The scientists don't debate. Princeton, leading university, hospital in America, doesn't debate where life begins. Life begins at fertilization. Life begins with the embryos, with conception. That is what conception is. That's how we know when you go and you get tested and they say, oh, you're pregnant because fertilization has occurred, life has occurred, conception has occurred. We have the beginning of life. On the flip side of this, when do we not have life anymore? Does life depend on whether you're a baby, whether you're 8 years old, a teenager, 18 years old, 22 years old, 35? No. Life ends when the brain stops working. And so, again, that's when life starts, right? We have the fertilization, we have conception, and we have active brain activity. That should be easy enough to kind of get our arms wrapped around. Well, what does that look like? And so we have a chart here, and the chart gives you kind of the 9 months. And do you really fully understand? If not, pause this and zoom in and take a look. Take a look at the different stages, the different steps. And so just after 9 weeks, you kind of have the little peanut of the fetal stage begins. You'll notice the beginning of the 9 weeks to the beginning of the 40 weeks, that there's growth, there's development. I'll show you at which weeks the baby's been essentially the size of a fist. And so, how do we know what's in there, right? Are we guessing? No, we're not guessing. We actually have great equipment that could look inside of the mother's womb and take a real picture. And you can see here in 20 weeks, we already see very, very clearly the head, the nose, the eyes, the shape of the body. We know that at 20 weeks that it's about the size of a piece of fruit or a fist. The ultrasound shows us this is not just unviable tissue. There's a human body developing in there, right? We can hear heartbeats. We can go to the ultrasound and between 14 and 21 weeks, we can take pictures and identify the gender. We can know the sex of this baby, of this human, of this child. It's not for debate. It's not a debate. This is a verifiable fact. Where's the fact? It's in the machine. It's in the picture. Okay? Well, back to our 9 months, because, well, let me pause there for a second. The Bible's not silent on this issue either. In fact, the Bible in Jeremiah 1 says that God can see your forming when you're in the womb. In the womb, okay? A soul starts at conception. Psalm 51:5 kind of gives us an illusion of that. And we even see in Genesis 25:22 that life is started, and even the brothers, Jacob and Esau, start wrestling. And so the Bible was actually our first great science book that revealed to us that, you know what, before the actual birth, life began at conception. That the development was already happening in the womb. A relationship between that child is already developing by God in the forming of the child in the womb. Think about that for a second. This is one of God's children, one of God's creation. See, the baby doesn't belong to the mother. The baby doesn't even belong to itself. The baby belongs to God. You are a child of God. And that's a very important thing for us to understand. This isn't a choice that one human can make over another human's life. So what happens over the 9 months? We see a fetal stage. We see sex organs, I mentioned before, fingers and toes, and begin at 16 weeks. Hearing begins at 20 weeks, at 24 weeks, lungs. 28 weeks, the brain is active. Bones are developing. Muscles. It's an amazing thing that takes place in this process of human development. So it's a beautiful thing. And everybody knows that a pregnancy produces a baby. This is why you're either so overly whelmed and excited and full of joy that you have a baby shower, or you panic, you freak out, and you decide, I want to end this child's life before it comes out. That's called abortion. If we're honest, that's the reason. The choice isn't a reason of their body. They had a choice to not engage in activity that would produce a baby. How about that for a choice? But once that baby is conceived, there's no longer a choice of one human to end the life of another human. Everybody knows that this pregnancy, this unviable tissue mass, is not going to magically produce an eagle, right? No, an eagle egg produces an eagle, and a turtle egg produces a turtle, and a human baby produces a human baby. It doesn't produce a giant unviable tissue mass blob, right? Nobody's ever given birth to a blob. And so the reason why the debate is pro-life versus pro-choice is because there is no debate regarding whether or not this is a life. The opposing side of pro-life isn't that it's not a life, because that's not a debate. It is a life, for fact, for sure, not unviable tissue mass. And so they have to argue pro-choice, which is a horrible, horrible thing to argue. An unborn baby is a human. So the reason why we laugh, we cry, we smile, we hug, we celebrate at baby showers is to honor the life of a human, not unviable tissue mass. So think again, Christian.